Okay, so Lillian, thank you so much for joining me and to discuss the Hidden Treasures 2 show. I know we're both disappointed about the COVID lockdown and how we couldn't have it in the gallery, but we are in the process of having it online and creating a virtual exhibition, which should be up soon. So I want to start out by thanking you, and would you tell us a little bit about this Hidden Treasures 2, what's Hidden Treasures 1, and kind of give us a little bit.
Yeah, so several years ago, the Autism Society and KVCR had sponsored what we called Hidden Treasures, which was our first one. It was a fundraiser that we held in Redlands, showing artwork of individuals with autism. We had artwork there, the artists there, and people came to the event, and we raised funds. And then we've been wanting to do it again, and I've been wanting to do it for a couple of years, and then we do a yearly calendar, as we'll talk about, I'm sure. And so when you mentioned the idea of, having a show for individuals with autism, then I was thrilled that we could, and I wanted to call it Hidden Treasures 2, because it's kind of like a follow-up, and hopefully there'll be a Hidden Treasures 3.
Hopefully.
But yeah, I'm hoping. So once we get past all of this, so that's where it initiated from. And then with your kindness and your gallery offering to do this, then it just fell into place.
Well, I appreciate it. And I hope that we can do the Hidden Treasures 3 in person, that way, because I know Eric and I are both very dedicated to this idea. I think it's really important, especially since our stance has often been verging on snobby with our kind of high-end art, which, I got to be honest with myself. I'm a bit of an art snob. But that doesn't mean that art has to be snobby. I never believe that, right? And I think that so many of these artists in the calendar are so powerful and innocent in a way, like the way that they make their art. And I think that art is such a powerful tool for therapy and dealing with life and struggles and such like this. So we're really honored that you're willing to work with us.
Well, it's our pleasure, and you're right. What I love about the calendar, and I think this is our 8th or 9th year that we've done the calendar, is when you look at the different variety of artwork, you see exactly that, a variety of talent, a variety of expression. You see some very, very simple, and when you look at the age groups, you can see that very thing. And but what you do see too is that this young kids, especially the little ones, have an interest in the art, have an interest in drawing. And what we all know is when you have art, it's another way to express yourself. And many with autism don't have language. And so it's a great way for them to express themselves. But more importantly to me, it's a great way for others to see their talents. And a lot of times people don't give that a second thought. And sometimes people will look at the art and say, oh, that's interesting. And then when you add the fact that an individual with autism did it, then suddenly they're, oh, really? And it changes their whole perspective. And as you see in the calendar, there is a variety of what what they show and what they are displaying. A lot of them, many individuals with autism love animals. And so many times you'll see animals in their artwork. So
I'm a big fan of that parakeet drawing. I forgot exactly who made those, but like since the moment you brought that calendar in, it was the parakeets and Jake Money. I don't know why Jake Money has like really captured my interest, but as an artist, I find him with a funny steez, like not funny, but like an interesting swagger to him as an artist, which is, I don't know, I find it intriguing. So
I remember the first time, and that's when I really thought, okay, he's an artist snob. Because, I love, of course, my son's artwork, but it's very traditional, very, not avant-garde, not, which is the kind of art that I love. So I think my son's is gorgeous. But the first thing you said, oh, I love this parrot, this whole parrot thing, I'm like, really? And that's the one thing about art that, to each their own, right?
Yeah.
Every individual likes whatever they like.
Yeah.
And then now with Jake Money, what I loved about his is, one, it's easy to remember his name because it's Jake and then the dollar signs.
Yeah.
But the fact when he submitted his artwork, or his family or mom helped him submit that, he did one for every month.
Yeah.
Right? So it was like saying, I want to get in this calendar,
Yeah.
so I'm going to give you something to use in any of the months or any of the days. So you can't say you don't have something.
Mm-mm.
And his is his very unique style. Those are his characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where my son's artwork is not from his head. Sometimes it's from looking at a picture, but it's not out of his mind. Whereas Jake and they're out of their own creation, out of their own head. And that's what you really see come alive.
Yeah, no, and I love it, and I'm not. I love looking at art. I love participating in the art world. Yes, I am an art snob, admittedly, but that is I validate my snobness through experience. You know, it's like if I were a mechanic and I were like really sharp on making an engine sing, I would say, oh yeah, you should probably put some oil or some, like I would have more details than the average person who doesn't even know how to check their oil. So that's my validation for my snobbery. With that said, art is great because you don't need to be a snob to enjoy it. Right. You just need to appreciate the colors, the composition, just the communication. Because, excuse me, as you said earlier, you said autistic people don't have language. I'd like you to expand on that a bit.
Sure. There is a percentage of individuals that do not have language, and some might have limited language. Some may be very, very, very verbal, but the majority, I would say, have limited language. And sometimes that language is inaudible, meaning it's not understandable, and maybe a parent or loved one would understand it. So that's why I feel like the art gives them a voice. And bigger, more so, is when I see an artist and somebody appreciate their work, an individual with autism, and somebody smile and somebody get woohoo about it. Or one of the things we find with the calendar is the parents will buy multiple copies because they want to send them to families and friends and grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles to be proud of their child's accomplishment. And that's what's really big, because first of all, they think, oh, you accepted our son's artwork. Now, we try to take every piece that's submitted to us, and I try and find a place for everything, so I don't want anyone not included. And granted, they may not be the big page, or they may be only a small page, but I try and include everybody. Because for the very fact, when that individual sees it, and it's his or hers, and they're so proud of themselves, and the parents are so excited that their little guy or their little girl is featured, So that's a big thing. Yeah, no, it's a big thing for me too, because this dovetails into a philosophical theory that I have, which is art is a language. It's a visual language, obviously. That's often stated. But what happens is in typical education, we are stopped. We're no longer encouraged to participate in this visual language. We've got mathematics, which is also a language. We've got spoken language, sentences, essays, all this stuff as you go through high school into college. But there's a constant neglect on visual language. And so what you're telling me dovetails into my belief that here's their chance to speak visually, and it allows for people who may not have a verbal ability to communicate to still express their feelings, to talk about what they care about, what they're interested in, and kind of and also be proud, right? Because there's one of the things that the gallery in general that we're talking about is the pride of San Bernardino, meaning we want people to be proud of this area, proud of the art that comes out of here, proud of our locale, all this stuff. And all of that, I think, is really, it hinges on this feeling of being able to communicate freely, right? So the other thing, and I'm just going to give you an example. Not only does it give you the opportunity to communicate freely, but it also gives individuals with autism the opportunity to engage, to become a part of something. And I'm going to give you the example. When my son was in high school, if he didn't have his art ability, he might not have been included in as many things as he was. Here's my example. When it was time for homecoming, he did the artwork for the parades.
Oh, right.
When it was time for prom, he did the artwork that was at the prom. When it was time he was in theater, and he did some of the pieces that were used on the set. Mm-hmm. And when he was in class, if they had an art project or they had a project in class, and you know how they have to sometimes get in a group of 4.
Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't have been able to write an essay so strongly. But what they did is they did a story on Jimi Hendrix and Satchmo, Louis Armstrong. He was a big part of that foursome. He was included. It was inclusive. And that's really what it brought to him. Yeah. And that's where I see the importance. Same thing when he was in middle school, his artwork was featured in the yearbook. So when you look at his yearbook, he's part of it. And it was because of his art ability.
Yeah, that's it really makes my heart warm just thinking about that. Like, I'm having, just to kind of relate this, I have somebody in my family who's younger, who is kind of going through their own mental health issues. Nothing as severe as autism, but they're finally coming around to the idea of drawing, the idea of coloring as a way to express themselves in a way that they couldn't have before. And I know from my personal experience, when I was able to really make good art, well, when I was young making art and got that kind of response, it gave me that pride. Like, yeah, I want to keep going. Like every time someone pats you on the back, you move a couple inches forward.
Right, yeah. And art does so much, just from having my son's art, I have come to love art far more than I ever would in my life. I love theater, I love music, I love that kind of art. But the actual art of putting something on a canvas and it has changed my world and my perspective of art. Good. And I'm looking at things almost through a different lens, right? Yeah. And so that's really changed. In fact, when you talk about, mental health, and especially in a time with COVID-19 and trying to find other things to do, what's really become something I love to do is when Grant draws something for me and I paint it.
Hey, yeah, that's great.
I'm totally digging it. Now, here's the thing with Grant. If I draw or he draws something and I paint it, and I don't paint it to the right specs or colors that he thinks, he'll say, no, green,
Oh, real artist, this boy, yes.
I have to have his input.
I'm proud of him. Good for him. Like, you got to have green. We talked about this off mic like a couple of weeks ago, like artists, and their craziness, right? And like, me being quote unquote an artist because I can blah, blah, blah in my snobby way. But the thing though is Grant there's a vision there. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's something that he's kind of like replicating from the world or as if it comes like out from the head, the vision's there. And it's important for artists to like chase that vision down and like really get it, and you might not understand why, anybody else might not understand why, but that person, that individual artist, for whatever reason, that's what matters.
And the other thing is sometimes just with Grant, I'll want to work on some art and he might not be in the mood. And when he's not in the mood and I push him, I notice his art is edgy and not as his typical style. So then I got to thinking, he's an artist. Artists don't always want to do it at that time in that hour right now, right? Yep. So I kind of learned to say, Grant, do you feel like drawing today? No drawing today. Oh. And then I'll say, I have a cookie. All right, draw. So that was his motivation because money means nothing to him, right? Yeah. Popcorn or a cookie would be his motivator. And good. Sometimes, and when he's focused like that, he can just go to town, draw for 2 hours, work on a project and go. Now, other times he could be not as focused, even if there's a cookie at the end. And you can tell by his drawings. You can see that it's just not there in his typical style. So then I know he's not at a place. And I decided to say, he's an artist. He gets to choose when he wants to perform or create.
Yeah, both. I mean, I totally agree with that. Now, I generally tend to tell my students that you can't rely on inspiration because as anybody who's had the artistic bug has knows that you kind of lie around, woe is me, and then you're like, oh, I've got it. But that in a way is limiting, right? Like you have to work through these blocks and but at the same time, it's great to hear that you are so understanding of Grant's artistic process and help cultivate it. Like I think that's, gosh, I wish more parents would support their artistic child.
I think more are coming along. I know I've had more engagement with more parents, and they're very pleased that the calendar even exists.
Yeah. Because
it gives their son, they may not be doing it, but they're glad that their son or daughter can participate. So I think parents are getting excited about that. I've also been working with more parents to say, how can you make a business of this? How can you get him engaged with this? Yeah. And when you get an individual with autism engaged, you also engage the whole family, because it's got to be a kind of, he or she can't do it by themselves. They need support, right? Mm-hmm. So I think more and more are coming. The other thing is, and this is the way I felt for a long time, is I could appreciate Grant's artwork, but I didn't think other people could. I thought, I'm a mother, he's my baby, I love everything he does. Yeah. But what I learned is others do. Mm-hmm. And even snobs like you, which totally blows me away when people will say, can he do an original for me? Really? Yes. Yeah. Can he draw my dog? Can he do this? I'm like, really? So now, he's been doing it a while now, so he has a lot of regular clients. But at first I'm like, I just thought it was something a mother could love. Yeah. But what I've come to understand is others can love it too.
For sure. And I want to kind of address that in a way, because it's like when I say average people, I don't try to mean it as dismissive, but as non-art heads like myself, right? There is this idea that art's easy or something that is not really valued, right? Like there's something in America that we don't really value art and creativity the same way that we value business or economics, right? With that said, artists do everything. We've designed your clothing. We've designed your favorite CDs. You have an invoice. Some graphic designer probably did your letterhead, and you choose the font that you use. That's right. Like part of your package. So it's this strange, ubiquitous experience where everybody looks and quote unquote appreciates art, but nobody actually thinks about appreciating art, right? And so, someone like Grant's drawings could have a market. It's just a matter of having the confidence, and this is where most people don't have the support to say, what you're doing is rad. You should do it more. We should find more ways to support
That's right. Yeah. So Grant doesn't care about his artwork. I'm the one that cared about his artwork and seeing how we could push it forward. But again, it was like, would anybody else like it that wasn't our family? Yeah. And I did learn that they do. Now, Grant doesn't care. After he's done with the drawing, he has no attachment to it, right? It's done, it's there, it's whatever. So I've learned that. So it's been me kind of pushing, but then it's also coming up with other ways to show off his art. So we started making note cards, right? And people would buy those. And then this year we made puzzles. And puzzles have been so popular using his artwork because people are at home with COVID. We've had so many orders for his puzzles.
That's fantastic.
I love seeing a post where someone has put together his puzzle with his artwork, So it's just other ways to show off his talent. I want to get back to something else you said. Yeah, please. As an instructor, you are. Deadlines are important. If you're taking classes, you still have to hit those deadlines. Yes. And I can remember when Grant was in high school and when he was taking classes at Valley College, you still had to hit deadlines, right? You still have to do the syllabus. You still have to do all the requirements. So, yes, you have to sometimes need that muse to get you going or whatever. But you still have deadlines, just like an artist that would get a job that has to get finished in order to get paid. So there are deadlines. Sometimes you have to speed up that creativity.
I totally agree with you, and that's one of the when I'm in my teacher role, I'm usually the type of downer parent. Like, you got to eat your broccoli. You got to make sure you write an artist statement. Don't forget to work even when you're not inspired. These are the things that, as when I say children, I mean children as in
students.
Yeah, students, but also sometimes when I'm being a quote unquote an artist and I'm not worrying about a market for my work, I'm just kind of creating because I love to create and I need to create. That to me is like my child, my inner child, So when I'm doing childish things, like not worrying about how much money I get paid an hour when I'm making this painting or photograph or whatever, it's in a way, that's what you kind of want to hold on to, because that's the kind of innocent freedom that allows you to look at the world creatively. But if those who choose to go into a professional level of art, there is always the business end, right? It's not show business. It's not show friends. Show business. It's art business. And part of doing that business is working when you don't want to work, working through a painting that you're not inspired to do, taking on a client, or not a client, but like a job that you're not really into, but you're doing it because going to do the next great thing.
Right. Yeah. And that's hard. And one of the things that, when you think about the business end of it and creating the logo and creating the website or the Twitter account and Instagram and all that, it's a lot. But the hardest part that I found when we started doing this was pricing it.
Yeah.
And people look at something and go, "Oh, that should be $20." Really? It took him 7 hours. No, it shouldn't be $20. Yeah. You wouldn't work for minimum wage and expect $20. Yeah. And I'm not saying that in a negative, but it was a real learning lesson. So I had to connect with a lot of artists that have been doing it for a while. How do you charge? How do you, what will, and I guess it's whatever the market will allow for. Yeah. But it's also whatever the buyer really wants, right? So that was that was hard for me, trying to get that part of it and understanding how to price something. You
are not alone. That is hard for everybody, even experienced artists. And ultimately comes down to what the market will bear. But also what's your, Mick Jagger is going to sell more records than Andrew Thompson is, right? Just off of name brand. So there's that too. Boy, and when I was working in Chelsea, New York, I watched this one dealer have this really large photograph priced at $8,000. They said, "Oh, it's not moving. All these people are kicking the tires, but no one's buying it. What do we do?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to raise it to $12,000." And he sold it within a week. It's like crazy talk, It's like sometimes you can't know. In a way, you have to be so bold. How about this? Is to ask for so much that people balk, and if they don't, then you have a whale. We're gonna get this. And if they do, you can kind of nudge them down.
That's really interesting. I'm going to keep that in mind. That's a great story. I'm going to keep that in mind.
Because the crazy thing, and this is, it's also tricky, right? Because rich people want to buy rich things. They want to buy expensive things. You're not going to, I have this Toyota, right? And it's the 97, great gas mileage, low mileage, crazy. It's basically a new car. But no one in their basically no one but me wants that car, because everyone wants to be seen as like, I've got a fancy car. Look at me. I have wealth. I have status, right? And people, rich people, and I don't know exactly what rich people means when I put it in quotation marks, but somebody who buys a $12,000 photograph want to brag that they spent $12,000 on that, right? Now, when I say us, like we in kind of like the galleries market is more towards the average person, and I imagine that's more what your clients are too. We tend to aim towards something that is within reach, but not exploiting the artists, right? Because $20, I mean, come on, that's less than minimum wage if you're doing
exactly.
Yeah.
So what I finally came up with is I calculated how many hours it might take him to do something, and then I figured based on materials or paints or markers, whatever he's using, whatever medium he's using, kind of what that cost was, and that's how I came up with it. But it was hard. It's hard. That's
how the IRS will tell you to do it too.
Who's the IRS?
The IRS. They will. That's exactly how they do it too. It's once you get into like, why is one artist $5,000 and the other artist is $10,000, the other artist is $50,000? It often depends on who the artist is at that given time in their life. Are they well known? Are they in museums? Is their gallery the type of person that can call anybody and sell for $5,000, or can they sell for $10 million? I mean, some people have that Rolodex. I don't.
Right.
I don't.
Nor do I. Do I.
But somebody can. Like, if Elon Musk can send rockets into space, he can buy a painting for $5,000 without thinking twice about it.
You know what I like to tell people when Grant is at a fair and we're selling his artwork is, if you get in early, you might have an early original of a Grant Weisgarver painting.
It's true.
Because you never know how big he might get.
I agree with that too. And most people, when I say back to the average people, the average person is kind of used to going to a museum, but only buying like a poster or something from the gift shop, right? They're not going to buy a Grant Weisgarden.
Weisgarver.
Yeah, Weisgard. They're not going to see that as the same value, right? And I don't understand why personally, but that's why I'm a snob and not average. But I believe people that should buy work by people that they know, because if I spent $100 on Grant and you and your family are going to have the pride and a little bit of money. If I spent $100 at Hobby Lobby for a poster that said "Live, Love, Laugh" or something like that, that's $100 to Hobby Lobby, who probably paid $40 to the distributor, and they probably paid, less than $1 to whoever manufactured it.
Right. Yeah.
It does. Your money doesn't go to the people. It goes to like some other, something entity, right? Yeah. So I think it's important to like buy from artists like Grant, and also to buy because not as an investment, but because you love it.
Right.
Because that way it doesn't matter if it's $1 million or $10. If you love it, it's going to be that valuable to you.
Recently Grant's artwork is in a little sandwich shop here in San Bernardino, my hero. And someone went in there about one of his originals and mailed it to a woman that loves sunflower seeds and pumpkins, which is exactly what the art was. And the letter, the way she had made the woman feel who got it as a surprise, was so ecstatic and thrilled. And what that means to me in my heart is somewhere Grant is somewhere else in Northern California. His artwork is hanging on their wall. Yeah. So that's good.
No, it is good. It's really it's heartwarming. I totally know the feeling. I won't do any humble brags because I've had my own experience where you get like this incredible compliment that you weren't expecting, and it's about your art, and you think that nobody cares because there's like this as opposed to like a musician, I sing, the audience reacts, I get an immediate response.
Right.
The painter, the drawer, the photographer, that feedback is so much slower that sometimes you feel like you're just kind of shouting into a void, and you don't know if anybody's paying attention or not.
Right. Yeah, I get it. I know when he's been on in art shows and he goes to his piece of artwork and we always take his picture in front of his artwork.
Mm-hmm.
I think he doesn't tell me, we don't know, but he smiles and he stands in front of it. So I think it probably does bring him, some happiness. He's probably going to want a cookie afterwards. But
yeah, but
and that's why I think the art show that you're doing is so cool, and hopefully we'll do it live someday.
Yeah.
But because of the pride it's going to bring to these kids when they see their artwork, and like I said, their parents and grandparents. I know some of the people that were planning to come to this one, they were going to bring like 12 people because they wanted everyone to see the little artwork, but it'll happen. Yeah,
it would have been fantastic, and to go back to like why Eric and I were initially so passionate about having the original works and not like giclées or some like reprints of it, right. Because as artists we understand that. I bet you these people really get their kick by like having the original there, like treated as like a high-end artwork. Gosh, I hope that we do get to do it in person so that everyone gets to see their work treated, because one of the things that we're good at, because of our snobbiness, is the exhibition of artwork. That's something that Eric and I have a real pride about, is like when you come into our shows live, they look top notch, or at least as high, close to museum quality as we can get within our means.
Right.
And I think that there will be a tremendous amount of pride for those artists when we finally get to do it live. We are working on something really cool. I hope that we have it out sooner than later, but it would be a 360 video of the space with the pictures from the calendars laid out.
Nice.
Fingers crossed. I haven't quite connected all the dots yet, but we have the service, we have the means to do it. It's just a matter of working out the bugs. And it's a little bit disappointing that we've missed Autism Month. Yeah,
April,
yeah. So I really, to that I apologize. This pandemic has really thrown a wrench in everything.
Absolutely.
But the benefit of this 360 exhibition is that it will be there in perpetuity for as long as the gallery has a website.
Right. Nice.
So it's taking its time, but it won't go away once it's up.
That's nice.
So
That's great.
And what we're doing now, I'm hoping to, like I said earlier, I'm hoping to put in some pictures and maybe even some of the 3D modeling of the exhibition. That way, and then share it as a podcast, as a video podcast. That way, we can still promote this show even under the weird circumstances that we're under.
Yep, sounds good.
Good. Is there anything else? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the Autism Society before we break out?
Sure. The Autism Society has been around, I should know this, I sit on the board, for many years, decades in fact, and we have a very large area that we support, the Inland Empire, which is huge. Some states aren't as big as the area that we have to try and cover, and basically our goal is to help families to help their children or the individual living in their home, to provide resources, to provide activities, to provide social events where they can get together, and sometimes just to provide an ear.
Yeah.
Somebody needs some help today or some ideas, or the bottom line is real for families, for a grand variety of topics, because there's so much that autism impacts or is impacted by autism.
Yeah. Good. And how would anybody get a hold of the Autism Society or
Our
any?
website,
Yeah.
website is our best. It's ieautism.org.
i.e. autism.
Like inlandempireautism.org.
Okay. And where would they get the calendar?
So the calendar we have very few left, but you can also get them at IE Autism if people were still interested in them. I mean, it is May; they're kind of calendars.
Yeah,
but they're still there.
Sometimes it's just to have the pictures.
Very much. In fact, sometimes if we don't sell them all, I hate to throw them away, and I'll cut them up and send the pieces of artwork because it's somebody's work.
Yeah, I agree. Well, great, Lillian. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. It's been a pleasure working with you and bringing this exhibition to San Bernardino and, well, essentially online, unfortunately. But I look forward to working with you in the future, and hopefully we can do a live show once the lockdown is lifted.
I hope so, too. I'm counting on it. Thank you so much for your support and for including our families in your gallery.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.